Letters that look similar. There are a few letters in the Hebrew alphabet that look similar but are different and need to be carefully distinguished. One pair is the Beit and the Kaf. Now, the way I've written them here, they look quite different, but if you write them fast, you may end up, some people write their Beit like this, and then their Kaf like this, and it looks very similar. This is a two-stroke letter. You got one stroke here and then a second stroke. Kaf is single stroke, just one rounded stroke. The other feature, main distinguishing feature, is that this is square. This has got a right angle here at the top, and this is round. Actually, right angle down here as well. So, this is the way they should look, not something like this. Another pair are the Sin and Shin, and I'm going to write them this way for a reason. Here's the Sin, and here's the Shin. So the Sin has the dot on the left, the Shin has the dot on the right. How do you distinguish these things? How do you remember them? One way to remember which is which is if you write the alphabet out in Hebrew, which of course is right to left, and if you learn to say it or sing it, then you will say Sin, Shin, Sin and Shin and Tav. So when you write the alphabet this way and when you say it, Sin and Shin, the dots are together. So if you've memorized the alphabet Sin and Shin, and you can remember, okay, the dots are together, therefore this must be Sin, this must be Shin. I don't know if this is helpful for you, but anyway, don't confuse those two. The placement of the dot is what tells you the difference between those two letters. Another pair, and this is a classic pair, is the Dalet and the Resh. And when you're writing these things fast, it's easy to confuse them. And sometimes even in printing, a small font, it'll be hard to tell. The key difference is right here. The Dalet is a two-stroke letter with an angle, sharp angle, and the Resh is rounded. The Dalet can also be confused with the final Kaf if you don't write it well. Oops, I kind of squiggled there, but the final Kaf has a descender that descends below the baseline. That's the difference between these two. So if you're writing Hebrew and you don't extend this down far enough, someone may think you have a final Dalet. Another pair that is easy to confuse is the Chet and the Hey. Again, the difference here is that this is a single stroke letter and this is a two-stroke. You draw this line and then this line. And the main visual effect, after you've drawn it, is this gap. The Hey has the gap. The Chet, there's no gap here. So be careful to write those correctly. The Chet can also get mixed up with the Tav. And the difference here is that the Tav has a little tail right here. But if you're writing those fast, you forget the tail, the little tail down here, then they can look similar. And if you close your gap on your Hey and your Tav could also be confused. So all of these three really, here, you have to be careful to write those correctly. Another set is the Vav, which I guess is written like this. I often just write a line for Vav, sort of a slightly slanted line. The Vav and the Zayin. The difference here, well, similarities first. They both have a long stroke that is slightly slanted from the top to the bottom. They both have that. The Vav has a little bit of a top to it, the way it's printed and the way most people write it, although I don't. The difference between the two is that Zayin, the top, extends right across, not just on one side. And in terms of writing, this is a single stroke letter. Go here, then down, this is 2. You draw the line, the main line, and then you put the little top on it. So single versus double stroke. But visually, what you're looking for is to make sure that your final form here, when you're finished drawing it, writing it, has a top that extends, and this one doesn't. So Zayin and Vav. And these two can also, if you're not careful, be confused with your final Nun. Remember, your Nun looks like this when it's initial or medial. A final Nun has a little top to it and extends down below the baseline. If you don't put a long enough tail on it, it's going to look like one of these two. So these three you need to distinguish. So let's maybe recap briefly here. We have bait and kaf, sharp angles, 2 strokes. We have sin and sheen. We have dalet and reish. Remember this corner when you write this, give it an angle, and reish, don't put an angle on there. So dalet and reish, and dalet and final kaf. Make sure you got the descender on the final kaf. Chet and hey, make sure your hey has a gap. And chet and tav, make sure your tav has the little tail on it. That'll keep it distinguished from both the chet and the hey. And finally, we have our vav, our zayin, and our final nun. Remember the tops to distinguish the vav from the zayin. And remember with your final nun to extend it below the baseline to distinguish it from the zayin and the vav.